Hello, students. Dr. Madewell here. Today, we're going to cover mini lecture 4. And we're going to talk about graphing. And this is still going to be following along in your textbook. I just love this quote, so I thought it'd be a fun way to start. By Sherlock Holmes, written by Arthur Conan Doyle. It is a capital mistake to theorize before one has data. And what we're going to be talking about in this class, we do kind of want to have a theory, kind of a research idea, but we need data to back it up. Okay, if we say, based on past research, I hypothesize that someone who's experienced a natural disaster will have better planning behavior than someone who hasn't. Well, we want to have data to back up our analysis before we get too far along. Why do we graph data? We want to graph data to make data easier to interpret and communicate to our audience. We've talked about this a little tiny bit, but when we present our data to an audience, oftentimes we then want to ask them to fund our research idea, to support our research idea. And we want to graph data in a way that is simple and simple to digest. We want to reveal trends, clusters, gaps, and outliers visually. Graphing data will also help us identify the shape of the distribution. So we remember in the previous lecture, we talked about skew and kurtosis. Now, one type of graph is called a histogram. It's used for continuous data. So our continuous data is going to be anything Likert scale, which we love to ask in our field. We'll say from 1 to 7, how much do you agree with this statement? Where 1 is strongly disagree and a 7 is strongly agree. That means it's continuous data. In psychology, a lot of our data is continuous. Maybe we strongly disagree in the morning, and maybe by that evening we strongly agree. And then the next morning we're back to a 2 and a 4 and a 6, because our data is continuing to flow. Our thoughts, our attitudes, our behaviors. So when we draw out a histogram, our bars are going to touch. There will not be space in between. For your handwritten notes, I want to see you draw this. And then once you have SPSS down, I want you downloaded. I want you to play with this. A histogram is also going to show us how many scores fall into an interval. So how to make a histogram in SPSS, we're going to go to the Graphs tab. And when you open that, the very first option is called Chart Builder. The window that pops up, we're going to select, so this is the window that pops up. You're going to select histogram. You can see these are on bar graphs, and there's space between. Okay, we want a histogram. When we choose histogram, then we're going to drag our variables into the editing window, and then OK. So right up here, you have all of your variables. You're just going to lower this toolbar until you find your variables of interest and drag it over. Very simple. Here's a histogram I did on a different data set I was working on. We have anxiety total here. And there are some places where the bars aren't touching, and that means that there's missing data there, or no one scored that. Okay, so I'd like you to stop the recording and go ahead and draw what you see here. If you wanted, you could copy and paste and put this into your Word document or your PowerPoint from SPSS. It's very simple. Number 1, I want you to draw this. And number 1, I want you to tell me, does this data look normally distributed to you? Number 2, what's the range of possible scores for this? And number 3, do you see any skew? Here, we can see that the mean, go ahead and write the mean too. The mean is 11.729. Since it's 7.729, we could round that up to 0.73. I like for you to report to the 4th decimal, but for a research presentation for your audience, they might just want a hundredths, 2 decimal points. Our standard deviation here, so our increment between each, our standard scores from the mean is 4.12. And our sample size, n equals 48. Go ahead and write that and draw that, and go ahead and stop to make sure it's in your handwritten notes. And then you can develop your own histogram later on. Now let's move on to bar graphs. Bar graphs are used for categorical data. And that's a categorical data is, are you male, female, gender nonconforming? Are you white, non-Hispanic, Hispanic, Black? Those usually you're one bar. And so that means that there would be spaces between the bars. Bar graph is going to show the differences in frequencies or percentages between categories. It would be a great midterm question for you to explain the difference between a histogram and a bar graph. Be a great midterm question for you to explain what are the differences between a histogram and a bar graph. To make a bar graph using SPSS, you're going to follow those same steps. You're going to go to Graphs and Chart Builder. And then down here, you're just going to make sure you click bar graph and then drag your variables of interest over here. You can change the colors, do all kinds of fun things in SPSS. When we view the bar graph, here I picked, again, I just had a data set open. I picked a variable, the question was ACEs 1. Did a parent or other adult in the household often or very often swear at you, put you down, humiliate you, or act in a way that made you afraid that you might be physically hurt? If they said yes, they're here with a 1. If they said no, they're on this graph. And so what type? So here again, I want you to draw your bar graph. If you need to stop the video, draw the bar graph, write the mean standard deviation. The sample size is 48. This is not going to be normally distributed. It's a bar graph. We're looking at 2 different variables as a whole. So the same questions aren't going to be asked as on the histogram. But what type of variable is this? Nominal, ordinal, interval, ratio? Answer in your handwritten notes, and go ahead and make sure to include this drawing in your handwritten notes. When we're interpreting our graphs, we want to ask, is this graph symmetrical or skewed? Are there gaps, clusters, or outliers? And what does this shape suggest about the data and our research design? These are all very important questions I want you to be asking yourself and thinking about when you do your first data analysis quiz that's coming up very soon. What's next? Well, we've completed chapter 2, and we're going to move on to measures of variability, chapter 3. We've talked about some aspects of variability, but we did a little tiny snippet. What we're going to do next is you're going to actually do a full-on homework, and you're going to watch some videos and do some handwritten calculations with me, okay? And then what we'll be doing is doing your homework and getting SPSS downloaded, and then start playing around with SPSS. Well, that ends our series for this week, and make sure to watch any other lecture videos that are posted on Canvas, and make sure those are in your notes so you get max points. If you have any questions, email. Thank you very much.